This video is a back-to-back release with the other one, which is what to do with a £20 laptop with Russian Windows 7 Starter OS. And you should be able to find cross-reference between the two videos. This is an actual step-by-step tutorial. While the footage is not of the highest quality, I thought it'd be useful to show you guys an actual practical step-by-step demonstration of an installation. I did not want to do a virtual installation because sometimes you can come up with issues that you can't really deal with if you have a virtual machine. So hopefully this is helpful. Hey nametags and welcome. This is Ash from HealMyTech, helping you go from newbie to techie. What I've got with me is a small netbook from HP. This is the HP Mini 100 I believe, something like that. And the client bought this really cheap from a guy, and unfortunately it had a different language, and I found out this is actually in Russian, and it has Windows 7 Starter. In terms of processor, it's got an Intel Atom, like 1 core, 2 threads, and only 2 GB of RAM. So in a nutshell, this is a piece of rubbish. Obviously they bought it thinking, you know, they'll just get the language changed over and it's going to be good to go. So £20 from some market somewhere, from the street guy, I don't even know. But unfortunately, if you have Windows 7 Starter Edition, which is a crappier version of a Home Premium Edition, then there is no way you're going to be able to change the language, both the base language and the display language. We've tried and it's not going to be possible. There is a possibility to use a third-party software. It's a bit dodgy. So what can you do with this kind of laptop? Now, nothing. Really, to be honest with you, don't buy that. Keep your £20. But if you did, and I want to show you something else you could do. What we're going to do today is install another operating system called Linux, and I've talked about this in the past. Linux is a, for the most part, free operating software. It is an alternative to Windows and Mac, and it is a really good operating system. It's basically based on a system which you know about from similar to Android and PlayStation operating system. Okay, now I have got with me here a Linux Live USB drive. You can also find how to download and install Linux on a live USB. I've done videos on this before. Just check out the link in the description below or the card above. There are many distribution versions of Linux. Well, today we're going to use a Linux Mint version, and I think this is the 18 point something. There's a more recent one which is 19. Doesn't really matter, it's up to you, but go to the video and check it out how to download and install it. But the reason for Linux Mint is because this is the most user-friendly if anyone is coming from a Windows environment. Now, this laptop also, the battery is dead, so I'm using the charger to power it. To get onto, first what we need to do is boot onto this drive. So there's two ways to do this. You can select the boot menu or go into BIOS, but I'm going to show you from the BIOS side. Now, we're going to switch it on, and immediately it's going to pressing F10 to enter BIOS setup. Right, we managed to get into the BIOS. Now, by default, these laptops usually they will not allow you to boot into anything else, so we're gonna have to change some settings. So you press F10, you go to BIOS. Let me just focus this camera. So go into BIOS. You're gonna have a main tab. What you want to do is go 4 tabs to the right and go to boot options. Press on that. Now here, by default, floppy boot and internal network adapter boot is going to be disabled. What I've done is enable it. Okay, so just press enter and go from disable to enable. And you can also check the boot order. And here I had a notebook hard drive as a first boot order before by default, but now I've changed it to USB diskette on key / USB hard disk. And you can change these values by pressing on F5 or F6 for up and down, and I'll show you. So F5 will bring it down, F6 bring it back up as your first boot order. So everything is good to go. We press F10 and exit saving changes. Like I mentioned, you can also press F9 at this stage when you're restarting, and you will come to this menu, and it gives you 3 options: generic flash disk, notebook hard drive, or network adapter. That's after you've changed the boot order. But we're going to use this USB, okay, which means we're going to choose generic flash disk, and Bob's your uncle. Now we are going into grub bootloader. for UNet booting. So I'm going to select default because I want to just try the Linux drive first. Now it's always a good idea to boot into the Linux live USB drive just to have it, check whether all your hardware is working. There are other versions of Linux Mint that I have, but none of them did actually want to boot up. So if that's the case, if you can't use Linux Mint, I suggest you go back to the distribution list and check something else. Like you can try Ubuntu, Lubuntu, Poppy Linux, and there's so much. Anyway, it looks like we are booting up, so hopefully this is good to go. It will take a while depending on the capacity and the type of USB drive that you have. By default, most times Linux will be able to find and make the Wi-Fi work, but for an extra precaution, sometimes I've had issues with Linux drivers for Wi-Fi. I'm going to connect the Ethernet cable on the side here because I want it to set up properly, including the updates at an early stage, but this is optional. Okay, we got to this screen. It's still trying to boot up into Linux. Okay, the other reason I mentioned not to go for laptops like these is actually a netbook. This is running really slow and really hot as well, so it could do with a bit of new thermal paste inside, but we're not getting this kind of work done today. Regardless, putting Linux version on this netbook will still work much better than any other Windows version. The reason I'm not going to Windows 7 or 10 is one, Windows 7 you're gonna have to find a license key, and then I'm not sure whether they have drivers for this updated, and it may crash, including Windows 10 as well. I'm pretty sure Linux Mint is going to be more stable. Now when you come to this first login screen, you're gonna have three options. You can check, you can just use the disk as it is just to go around, even browse, but we are going to just install Linux Mint. So click on that and I'll take you to the motion. Okay, from this point on, it's like Windows setup. It's just a question of click and selecting the right thing. First, install, we're going to choose English language. Yep, continue. It's asking us to preparing to install Linux Mint by install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware, Flash, MP3 and other media, which we want. Just tick that. Continue. Okay, at this stage you're gonna have two options. It is detecting a Windows 7 installation already on there, so you can actually erase the whole disk and install Linux Mint, or you can even install Linux Mint side by side, but we're gonna keep it simple. We want to erase everything and install Linux Mint, so go ahead with the first one, install now. It's giving us a warning. If you continue, it's gonna write change to the disk. Yep, click on that. Needless to say, at this point everything on the disk is going to be erased, but we don't want Windows 7 starter anyway. We want Linux Mint English. And now it's going to ask us to select a region. This is London. Continue. Obviously select your own region. And for the keyboard layout, I'm choosing English UK. And at this stage you can input your name, computer's name, pick a username and password. So for now I'm going to keep it simple, just admin. Okay, and I'm going to leave the it has an automatic name for the laptop, admin-hp-mini-110-3100. You can put anything you want. So username, we're going to leave it as admin, but I'm going to put a password. I'm not going to tell you the password. Now after this you can choose to have a login automatically, or you need your password to log in. We are going to put login automatically to make it easy for the people. Oh, apparently you can't use admin because this is reserved by the system, so we're going to pick a different username. So we're going to call the username and now it's going to copy everything from the installation disk onto the hard drive. It's just a question of a few clicks, and I will see you after it's done. Okay, it took a while, but it's now completely finished installing the whole thing. So you can continue using the live USB drive, or you can just restart. We're going to restart. Okay, we're now rebooting, and we've just installed Linux Mint 18 something 64-bit. So hopefully everything went okay, and it should boot up into the first screen of Linux Mint. And as you can see, the logo is coming up, all lovely jubbly. Now this laptop is already quite slow, netbook rather, and however it is going to be faster than any Windows version you can put on. Maybe exception might be Windows XP, which is quite lightweight as well, but who uses Windows XP anymore? Okay, so we've booted up to Linux main screen, and there's a welcome screen. Now, by default, a lot of the programs you're going to need are already included in Linux Mint, which is great. However, you may want to install a couple of stuff. For example, the web browser default is Firefox, but we're going to try and install Google Chrome, and Google Chrome installation on Linux Mint has become a lot easy over the years. You don't need to go through the command input point. We're going to do this straight from Google own website. So what you want to do is go to Google Chrome, download, and click on download Chrome. We're going to select the first one, 64bit.deb for Debian and /Ubuntu. It's all good. Accept and install. And you have two options: save it or open with the GDebi package installer default. So we'll click that. And again, just a couple of clicks and you should be good to go. Now, Linux Mint needs to do a bit of updating once you install it, because especially depends on the distribution that you have chosen to download and install. But we can do this later on. But just to tell you that at this stage, pretty much out of the box, you can actually start using Linux Mint on this old netbook, especially if you just want to browse stuff. And that's what most people would be doing. Okay, click on install package. So it's asking for a password, which we input earlier, so we're going to do that. Okay. With Linux, anything you do install needs your password. So by default, this is a higher level security. I mean, you can do this on Windows as well, but you have to set up stuff. Okay, installation finished. You can close that. Don't need that. Don't need that. Now with Linux, you often have some security measures, and it will be asking you for your password, like this choose password for new keyring when you are trying to go onto the browser. So it's quite normal, nothing to worry about. After this, there are some minor setups to do, like doing the updates, setting your Wi-Fi if you haven't done so yet, just getting some drivers. There's nothing major, but the point is, out of the box, Linux Mint will work straight and you can start using it straight away. There are also a lot of tutorials online, or you can find how to set up properly after installing Linux. But in case you guys have any problems, do let me know and I will try to do another video, maybe a bit better than this one, including what to do straight after you install Linux for first time users. Okay guys, so thank you so much for watching. You know what to do down below. Consider subscribing if you haven't done so yet. Leave me a comment and also leave me a like. As always, this was Ash from HealMyTech, helping you go from newbie to techie. Until next time, peace out.